Start with the biggest development in the 4-month trial, corruption trial of Mike Madigan. Right now, the former House Speaker has been testifying in what was viewed as a surprise move this afternoon.
Yeah, that was a decision really that shocked the courtroom and triggered a series of legal arguments about how that testimony could actually be used.
NBC5's Wojciechowski has been following this trial for months. He has been on the case since October, and this was a big surprise. Charlie, tell us more about what happened today in court.
Alex, this truly was a massive surprise. No one was really prepared for this. We thought Bud Getzendender, the law partner of Mike Madigan, was set to testify today, and then this happened. The former speaker making this decision on his own with his attorneys. He is now the highest-ranking Illinois politician to testify in his own trial since Rod Blagojevich. And this decision comes with potentially high rewards, but also very high risks. A surprising and risky move at a delicate stage in his bribery and corruption trial. Former House Speaker Mike Madigan deciding to take the stand in his own defense, opening himself up to questions from prosecutors while allowing him to appeal directly to jurors. Madigan's attorney Dan Collins started with a series of questions upon which this trial hinges. Throughout your career, would people ask you for help, Collins asked. Yes, all types of people, Madigan said. Did people ask for help finding a job? Yes, Madigan responded. When people asked me for help, if possible, I tried to help them. Then Collins asked, did you ever trade your public office for private gain? Madigan said no. The once powerful House Speaker went on to describe his strict upbringing on Chicago's South Side and the influence of his recovering alcoholic and dominating father. In that house, nurturing never existed. My parents never told me they loved me, Madigan said. Madigan learned to avoid conflict and the value of hard work, skills, he said, that served him well in his eventual role as Speaker of the Illinois House in Springfield. Down in the legislature, I would interact with different people, Madigan said. My role was to bring people together in the legislature, find a consensus. Madigan and his co-defendant, Mike McLean, are charged in a 23-count indictment with running the Speaker's office like a criminal enterprise to benefit themselves and their associates. They deny any wrongdoing. The testimony continues at this hour. So far, we've seen mainly softball questions from Madigan's own attorney. The time it could get difficult for him is when prosecutors do their questioning. That is going to happen a little bit later on. The whole decision to testify is going to delay this trial even further. We were hoping to get closing arguments as early as next week. Now, after a question from the jury, the judge responded they may not begin their deliberations until January 27th. Reporting live at the Dirksen Federal Building, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC5 News.
Charlie, thank you.
This big surprise in the corruption trial of former House Speaker Mike Madigan, the once most powerful politician in the state of Illinois, the former House Speaker took the stand in his own defense today.
It is considered a risky move, one few defendants take. Our political reporter, Marian Ahern, was in the courtroom today. She's here now with the latest. This was surprising to everyone.
It was. There was a race to the courtroom to be in the room. First of all, it was packed, including Mike Madigan's family, his daughter, former Attorney General Lisa Madigan, all in the front row. However, his wife not present. While we know Madigan as a power broker, today a much different image emerged as he related never heard before details of his early years. 82-year-old Mike Madigan telling the jury today he's a young 82 when he took the stand in his own trial facing 23 counts of bribery, wire fraud, and conspiracy. The decision to testify, a risky move, allows Madigan to speak directly to the jury, but also opens himself up to prosecutors' questions as well. Former federal prosecutor Ron Safer.
It is a huge risk reward to testify on your own behalf.
The first question from the defense, did people ask you for help? Madigan replied, when people asked me for help, if possible, I tried to help them. He was also asked, did you ever trade your public office for private gain, ever demand a thing of value in exchange for an official act, or ever accepted a thing of value for an official act? Madigan said, no. It's very rare for a defendant to testify. Former Governor Rod Blagojevich did. Former Governor George Ryan and former Alderman Ed Burke did not.
His goal is to get the jury to know him, to, if not like him, at least empathize with him. If he connects with two people, then they can form a block in that jury that will prevent conviction. Even if he doesn't win acquittal, it stops a conviction.
Madigan, known for rarely speaking to the media or sharing much information about himself, today revealed his father had been an alcoholic. And when Madigan was asked if he grew up in a nurturing family, he said no. Quote, "The word nurturing didn't exist. My parents never told me they loved me. They never embraced." Safer on if he would have advised Madigan to take the stand.
It is really difficult to get a white-collar defendant to an acquittal without having them look the jury in the eye and saying, "I did not commit this crime."
It may be a few days before prosecutors begin their questioning, and that will likely be not quite as friendly.
You mentioned the race to get to the court. I mean, this is stunning. I mean, we haven't heard from Madigan like this before. Take me back to that moment he stepped onto the witness stand and started testifying on his own behalf.
Well, the room was, as I mentioned, the room was packed. However, he was very at ease, speaking directly to the jury. Not all of them, though, always are looking back at him. I was watching, trying to keep an eye on both. They're taking notes at times, a few of them, but he was very much, instead of just looking at his attorney, he is looking straight at the jury, talking to them, and using hands like I am.
And you've covered Madigan for years. What have you noticed about how he is handling the pressure? Sounds like he's handling it pretty well.
It seems to me, and this is my opinion, is that he is taking control of this trial, as he did the General Assembly. He is not just delivering practiced answers, and clearly, by rolling the dice, he feels he's the best person to make his own case.
And so we're going to be hearing more from him, especially in the cross-examination, and get more information about him maybe personally that we haven't really heard before.
Certainly. Hearing about his life as a young boy, that was something we had not heard.
We were thinking closing arguments this week, but this is going to push it back.
Yes, it's going to push it back to the end of the month.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate it.
A major surprise today in the corruption trial of former House Speaker Mike Madigan. He decided to take the witness stand.
Of course, it is every defendant's right to take the stand and testify in their own defense, but it could be a risky move, which is why we don't see this happen all the time. Let's go to ABC5's Charlie Wojciechowski. He's live at the Dirksen Federal Building, where, Charlie, it was a packed courtroom today.
A packed courtroom, not only on the 12th floor of the court happening, what was happening, but also on the 19th floor in the overflow room. There was hardly a seat there. We listened as Madigan was questioned over and over again by his attorney. He admits to recommending people for jobs at companies like ComEd and AT&T, but says he did so never expecting to return the favor as far as legislation goes. His testimony today went off without a hitch, but so far he has not been cross-examined by prosecutors. An appeal directly to jurors, letting them see the personal side of the former speaker and how hard he says he has worked for the people of Illinois. Mike Madigan took the risky step of asserting his right to testify in his bribery and corruption trial in a move that surprised many in the Dirksen Federal Building courtroom.
His goal is to get the jury to know him, to, if not like him, at least empathize with him, and to convince them that he was a public servant.
On the stand, the once powerful House Speaker described his strict upbringing on Chicago's South Side. Madigan said he learned the value of hard work and the importance of avoiding conflict. Skills, he said, that served him well in his eventual role as Speaker of the Illinois House in Springfield. Down in the legislature, I would interact with different people, Madigan said. My role was to bring people together in the legislature, find a consensus. Throughout your career, would people ask you for help? Madigan's attorney Dan Collins asked. Yes, all types of people, Madigan said. Did people ask for help finding a job? Yes, Madigan responded. When people asked me for help, if possible, I tried to help them. Then Collins asked, did you ever trade your public office for private gain? Madigan said no. Madigan was also questioned about former Alderman Frank Olivo, who helped get a job with ComEd. When asked for his reaction to finding out that Olivo did nothing for the money, Madigan said he was very angry. Why, his attorney asked? Because I knew Frank for years and he knew that I worked all the time. He should have worked. He should have done the job, Madigan said. Still, his decision to testify exposes him to significant risk, especially when it comes to cross-examination from the prosecution. But that cross-examination may not come until next week, and it's a calendar issue that brings that about. The Thursday session will be suspended in favor of the Carter funeral. That's happening on the Memorial Day for the president. Friday there is no court, so the earliest you can reasonably expect to see some of that cross-examination is next week. This pushes the whole trial back by at least a week. The judge telling jurors today they may not get a chance to deliberate this case until the week of January 27th. Reporting live outside of the Dirksen Federal Building, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.
Charlie, thank you.